And I am live. How's it going, everybody? It is the Jonah Low Foxers or the Kage Low Fox. This is my show. I talk about anime, video games, cartoons, most notably Sonic and Ninja Turtles. And today I'm going to be doing some drawings, or I've already drawn out some stuff, but I'll be like coloring in front of you guys live. It's been quite a while since I've actually done a drawing stream, so should be a little fun, So you'll get to see me do a little hand drawn or drawing in real time and whatnot, and I can probably answer and chat with you guys as I'm like working on it and whatnot, that kind of thing. So this should be fun. So I'm not sure if I'm just gonna jump right into it right now. I'll probably put on some things in the background to kind of also keep me a little occupied, and show you guys some things and stuff like that, what I've been up to, and whatnot. But yeah, it's Friday. But yeah, and it's been quite a while since I've actually streamed from my phone, of all things. So that's pretty interesting. I might do a stream tomorrow too. Probably another drawing stream just like this one, because I know there's probably other ideas I have in mind that I want to draw, but um, but I don't think I'm going to like be able to like complete it all. But you know, let's get right into it. All right, I'm gonna put on a little X-Men '97 in the background. Obviously, it'll be mute, but it'll just be playing, just because. All right, we got 2 people watching. How's it going? 2 watchers. All right, as you can see, I got my little hot chocolate right here. I got my little Gohan figurine right here, Kid Gohan, as you can see. That's just gonna stand right here. I kind of cleaned off the table a little bit because it's been a mess for a while, and of course, I wanted to go into like, kind of like streaming on the table and stuff. So I, kind of cleaned it off and everything, specifically for the case. Let me show you guys some of my drawings actually before I get started. These are some old drawings that I had from like last year. Let me go to it. I've been thinking about like using this book to like draw backgrounds and stuff since I like drew like just the sketches alone. So I'll probably put like the the backgrounds and stuff to kind of give it a little bit more depth. These are characters from Evo Zones. I'm going to add their stages to that at some point. I was supposed to do that, but I kind of got sidetracked. Working on sketchbooks and all that other stuff. So I'll come back to this sketchbook and like draw the backgrounds for it. Just for fun. Axel got Mega Man Model A, Ash, the female version. Got Interjack, both versions, Dark Interjack and the regular DC Sonic crossover and stuff. So I should probably, yeah. Hey, what's happening, Dr. Hino? How you doing tonight? Hope everything is going well. About to just do a little drawing stream, showing off some of my stuff real quick. Some drawings and stuff. I did a static Vixen. This is again from almost a year ago, pretty much. So yeah, John Stewart, Wonder Woman, Spike, Lloyd, what you call it, your Forger family and all that. Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. I'm definitely wanting to add the backgrounds for the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds characters and their dual monsters and stuff like that. I'm tired, but I'm here. Cool. Appreciate it. Hopefully this will provide you some entertainment. Let's see what else I got. Kiza, always a pleasure on the eyes. Crow, the twins, Leo and Luna, Yugi, Jaden, of course, how can I not? Yeah, you say. So I'm gonna eventually like at some point draw the backgrounds for these, and then this is good as it is. It's like how I wanted to kind of conclude the the sketchbook with a big finish. This is one of my spicy sketchbooks, but I won't show you everything in there per se. This is my drawing of Yuria behind or in front of Raul from Fist of the North Star. A little hand drawn. I'm thinking about doing it digitally, like I'll trace it over digitally and like draw it and like color it in and stuff like that. One of my recent drawings of Catwoman, I actually like this old classic design of Catwoman, so I might try to do something with that. But yeah, before the black suit and everything. So I thought this is pretty cool with the slit dress. Then this is a drawing of of Rouge and Catwoman. I think this on my DeviantArt got like 50 likes, which is pretty cool. So that was pretty nice. So I was like, oh, I was not expecting that. But I mean, it's Rouge and Catwoman, so what do you expect, right? One of my recent drawings of Wonder Girl, I kind of mentioned this before when I was saying like, yeah, I drew Wonder Girl with some big breasts and everything and whatnot. A little bit unintentionally, but how can I like I couldn't help myself. But this is an aged up version of her, and Wonder Woman's aged down. They switched ages and stuff like that. And then this is what they were wearing before they had like swapped into these clothes for a small little story. So it was pretty cool. It was a little interesting. Shampoo from Ramen and a Half and whatnot. Her human form, and then this is her cat form right here, where she turns into like a cat because she got the little curse like Ramna and all that. And then Boa Hancock. This is the last drawing I did in this book. And stuff from One Piece. I don't think I've ever really, or it's been a long, long time since I've drawn Boa Hancock, but I decided, you know what? Let me draw Boa Hancock. Because she's one of the most sexiest characters from like One Piece. So why not draw her and all that? So yeah, those are some of my sketches. All right, let me pull out some of my watercolor markers and get this shindig started. You probably can't see the drawing too well, but once I start coloring it in, I'll probably you'll probably be able to see it a little bit more better compared to right now. Probably use that blue. Just- Definitely need that black. All right, well, let's get started. All right, so let's see what I can chat about with you guys as I'm drawing. So I will have to keep this a little bit dull and boring. Well, I guess I could tell you about my day, since I always like to keep a little bit of a mental record of like what I've been up to whenever I do these streams sometimes. So pretty much today it wasn't bad. I mean, went to work and everything around 8 o'clock and stuff, and got to work and everything. Pretty much my boss let me go home early and stuff like that because we already had a lot of people anyways around 11. So that was good for me because at least it gave me time to go home and like want to clean up a little bit and whatnot. So that's just how I personally felt. Mm, I'm not really feeling this. I'm going to turn on the extra light right here, this lamp, so I can see a little bit better as well. All right, that might be a little bit better. Anyways, this is Beast right here in his human form. Before he went all blue and stuff. So back from the classics. So, anyways, where I'm gonna start with. So yeah, work pretty much. Got sent home a little early, cleaned up around the house a little bit, that kind of thing. try to wash my clothes, etc. Um, I was watching Bleach and Dragon Ball GT a couple of hours ago because I'm thinking about maybe possibly reviewing Dragon Ball GT in the future. We're not reviewing it because I've already done a review on it, but I'm thinking about talking about the Black Star Dragon Ball saga because that is such a very hated saga. Like out of all the sagas inside Dragon Ball GT, that's probably the most hated, and honestly, to me, probably the most underrated as well. Because it's not really a bad saga, but it's kind of like one of those things where, usually with a lot of Dragon Ball fans, they really like to see a lot of the action and stuff inside Dragon Ball Z, and like anything else that isn't action based or isn't like just straight hands or whatever and stuff like that is just straight up just, oh, it's old, it's boring, it's filler, it's trash, that kind of thing. I'm like, well, it had a lot of deep moments inside the Black Star Dragon Ball saga and whatnot. And a lot of interesting ideas, planets and stuff like that, adventures. So that's just my personal opinion on that matter. So yeah, this right here is Jean Grey. But yeah, but I was watching Dragon Ball GT, so I kind of like I have the full box set already. So I kind of dug in my in my closet in the outside where I keep it at and stuff in like these little boxes a couple of days ago or like over the weekend and decided, you know what, let me rewatch the Black Star Dragon Ball saga. And that's what I'm going to do is just rewatch the Black Star Dragon Ball saga. I'm not going to rewatch the entirety of GT right now. And I'm going to try and watch it in Japanese because I don't think I've ever seen GT in Japanese before. So, you know, that's what I'm doing with some of these shows. So that should be also pretty fun too. But anyways, and then after Dragon Ball GT, I'll watch Bleach. Now Bleach isn't my favorite show out of the Holy Shonen trio with anime, between Naruto and One Piece. But Bleach is kind of a very underrated show, if you ask me. I feel like a lot of people kind of tend like, before this whole like Bleach Thousand Year War arc and all that stuff with the anime and stuff that came back. I felt like a lot of people used to like crap on Bleach a lot. Hell, some people used to even say Hunter x Hunter was better than Bleach. I'm like, no. I mean, don't get me wrong, Hunter x Hunter is a decent anime, but I wouldn't say it's better than Bleach. Like, nah. That's just my personal opinion, though. But anyways, but I have a respect for the series. So I mean, I've gone back on Naruto and One Piece sometimes here and there, like so many times. So why can't I just do the same for Bleach? So I bought the box set. I told you guys I got in the box set um you know a few weeks ago, and now I'm finally like officially like starting to watch it and stuff. So I'm on episode 4. So there's 4 episodes in each disc apparently. But anyways, currently right now I'm on episode 4 of Bleach. And what I just watched 3 episodes. I think I watched 4 episodes of Dragon Ball GT, where or maybe I might have watched 5 probably today because I was on the a mecha thing where Goku, Trunks, and Pan get stranded in this planet that like overcharges things and stuff like that, and it's ran by this dictator named Don Kree and all that. So yeah, it's a lot, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's one of the most like that whole thing was probably one of the more deeper parts of Dragon Ball GT, where like like that family, like the elderly married couple had taken in Goku, Trunks, and Pan for a bit, and gave him a little shelter and stuff from knowing that they were out on the run and everything, but at least give them their food so that they can they were just show them like kindness and stuff. How's it going, Taylor? How you doing tonight? I'm doing a drawing stream, as you can see. So right now I am coloring in my drawing that I had did a few hours ago of the X-Men, of the classic X-Men in their original uniforms and stuff like that. So yeah. So if you have any questions and stuff like that, you can definitely feel free to ask me and whatnot, and I'll answer while I'm drawing. And I also got X-Men '97 playing in the background, just because. So yeah. And if you guys also want some drawing advice as well, also feel free to ask. I could probably provide you some. So basically, what I'm using, and obviously this marker is dying, like is not doing too well. I'm using watercolor markers and all that stuff. So watercolor markers, I kind of mentioned it before, but I'll probably just mention it again anyways. But watercolor markers are like so there's this thing called watercolor paint, right? Which, a lot of people can probably use to like color in their drawings and stuff like that or whatever. But they made watercolor markers, which is a little more, I guess, compactable in my case. So I'm able to like, pick it up, use it, and just, use it like this, and also kind of combine it with my like, drawings and whatnot. I'm rewatching The Boys season 5. Oh man, you were killing yourself. Man, what a waste. Yeah, it's a waste to rewatch it too. Um, but I mean, but you do you and stuff. Um, I mean, I will say though, I did like that last part, of course. I mean, how can I not? Where Homelander was begging for his life, and he was like, yeah, that was hilarious. I was like, oh my god. Like, I mean, I believe it, but it's just like, wow, wow, that man was spooked. You can't fucking do this to me. I'm the Homelander. He was. I was like, oh my god, but that was hilarious though. Let's see what else. But yeah, so like I said, I just feel like yeah, Bleach is such an underrated show and stuff. Like I said, it's not my favorite per se, but I do like the series and whatnot and the characters. And as you know, I went to go see Bleach Thousand Year War, the Calamity, which they played in theaters, the first half of it. And then the second half will be like the finale of like the Bleach ending and all that stuff of like the original ending in the series and all that stuff together. So that should be fun. But yeah. And, there was some stuff too, like the fan service and how this married woman was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe my husband took our daughter and me out to go see this and blah blah blah," and stuff like that. And I'm just like, well, yeah, but I wouldn't go as far as to be like, let me divorce my husband and stuff because he watches this type of anime. Like that's kind of a little bit petty. But like I said, it's probably just a rumor to be honest. Because I'm just like, yeah. But anyways, but yeah, I'm going back and like looking back on some episodes of Bleach as well and stuff just for fun. Because I don't really do it too often and stuff like that. And maybe it might give me some ideas for like drawing and stuff like that, especially like with the manga and whatnot. So some good references to look back on and everything. Because when I first got into Bleach, because I got into my first animes, well, at least, well, I'm gonna tell you like how I got into like One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach. So Avatar Aang coming out tomorrow. Is it? Oh, really? I did not know. Also, A Chain, a good black guy, but done fucked up shit, such as his girlfriend who's systematic to bad people. Well, no, I mean A Train was a terrible person, but I will say he was trying to like become a better person and try to make up for his wrongs, which I did like that aspect about the writing and stuff. Despite I kind of did like that aspect though. I know some people might have preferred, and don't get me wrong, there are some villains or some characters that I do prefer that don't get like a redemption arc and stuff like that. But I feel like with A Train, I kind of hated it at first, but then the more it kind of went on and on, he was really trying to like be sincere, and he was really being like, he was really being like really useful to the boys and stuff like that. I was kind of going to myself like, you know what? I really do want to see A Train get this redemption arc. Like I know he's not going to survive at all because that would like be kind of like, oh, he just got off easy or whatever, despite all the stuff that he's done. But you know, he really did come through. But yeah, but going back to what I was about to say about One Piece, yeah, Naruto and Bleach. Now, One Piece, that was the first anime out of those three that I had saw because that came out on like Tsunami. because I didn't see it on, because I don't think I watched 4 Kids like that when I was younger, but I could have saw it on 4 Kids though. Um, and of course it was on like, Toonami. I definitely remember that. Because I think I was like, either 4 or 5 when I first saw One Piece and whatnot, and then yeah, so I remember that from back in the day. Didn't realize how, like, the voice acting was like and the changes or whatever, how weird it was, but as a kid, you're just, there just to enjoy it. And then that's when Naruto came out, like, a year later, around, like, what was it, 2005 when Naruto came out? And I was like, "Oh my god, Naruto was so awesome," and stuff like that, or well, I'm looking at the trailers and stuff, and it's like, "Oh, this action-based show," and then when I actually watched the show, I was like, "Oh, is it like some kinda comedy?" But it has these moments and stuff like that, and I'm like, "Okay, it's pretty cool." And then, the more it went on, the more it got, like, a lot more deeper, and that was, like, one of my first times, like, really getting into, like, an anime, you know? And then, I didn't really watch Bleach until, like, I've been kinda semi-aware of Bleach, but I didn't really watch Bleach until I was, like, probably, like, 12 and stuff when, one of my friends back in school was, like, a huge Bleach fan and stuff, like, he was real like, a real Bleach head and stuff like that, and I was like, "You know what? I do like the fights that he's showing me and stuff inside Bleach, and it does look pretty interesting," and I was also, like, reading the Shonen Jump magazine, which had, like, some moments from Bleach because I think the first time I read something from Bleach with the Shonen Jump magazine was when Ichigo was, fighting Grimmjow to save Orihime, so that was pretty cool, and then I decided just to jump in and watch the show and whatnot, and then, later on, I kinda just went back and, like, binge watched all the episodes until I caught up eventually and whatnot, where, Ichigo fought Aizen and stuff, which to me, that was, like like, such an amazing, like, battle and stuff, like, it was a very one-sided fight, but I thought that was pretty cool, though, how, like, Ichigo just, like, humiliated Aizen during that fight. I was like, "Man, does he even have to transform at this point to beat Aizen?" That's how crazy it was for me. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I like the, final Getsuga, Tenshio form and everything with the long hair and the bandages and all that stuff, that looked pretty cool. So Ichigo had some pretty cool forms back in the day, or like that Vasta Lord form and stuff like that. I was like, "Man, this stuff is pretty cool." But yeah. But anyways, speaking about Avatar, since Taylor had brought it up, I was also thinking about talking about Avatar too, because I also know that, the Avatar Legend of Aang game, I think that's sort of out or it's on beta or something like that. So, I'm not sure if I'll officially get it or not. I don't know. Like, I can't really say, but, yeah, I really can't say if I'll get it though. But I do like seeing the interactions online, and when I mean the interactions, I mean the character interactions with each other, which that is kinda something I was definitely hoping to see because, I'm like, out of curiosity, I wonder what it would be like if some of the, Legends of Korra characters or characters that we've never really seen together in, like, the same room, like, how would they interact with, like, another character and stuff like that, you know? Like, how would Korra interact with, like, Sokka or, Azula or something or whatever, you know what I mean? Or how would, even Kyoshi is here, which they should also probably should have thrown in Roku, but they might do this whole DLC pack thing because I think they had, like, Bolin and a few others on the DLC roster thing, I'm like, "Damn it." Well, you should just added a lot more characters to the game and stuff to make it a little bit more, but yeah. But, there was this one funny interaction between Zahir and Sokka where Zahir was, like, talking to Sokka like, "Yeah, you're not gonna get me this time with your you're not gonna get me this time with your boomerang," and stuff like that. Like, that was hilarious because, if you don't know, Zahir actually did fight, Korra's dad, Tenzin and Sokka, when he tried to kidnap Korra a long time ago when she was, like, little and stuff like that. So some fans think that Sokka might have died in the attack. I don't think Sokka died in the attack. I think, they won. But Sokka, he probably like, died afterwards, of course, because old age. But I don't think he like died in battle or something crazy like that. Like, nah. I don't personally think that because if that was like, if that was the case, they definitely would have that would have sort of been brought up before, or but that's just my opinion though. So that was pretty cool seeing that. funny. Speaking of Avatar 7, yeah, I know I'm about to get to that too. About Avatar 7 Havens. Funny, cricky race swap A train. Black, even ironic, a rapist. I imagine if they show a black A train committed assault on Starlight, no deep. Uh, yeah, they did too much of that, to be honest with you, like, where that was kinda like almost every character was like some weird rapist or some kind of fetishist or something like that inside the comics, and that was just like, yeah, like, why? Like, why'd you guys do this? You know what I mean? Like, it was so weird with the boys. Um, but yeah, I definitely gotta say, because I was saying this on Jay Leno's stream, that I think honestly, despite A Train being a race swap in the show, and all that stuff. I think that yeah, he's kind of a lot more better written in the show than he is in the comic. Where in the comic he was just this like, oh, this irredeemable, rapist guy that's like that is like really, or whatever. And I think he's killed by like Huey because Huey gets revenge on him for killing his girlfriend Robin and stuff like that. And he's all like, oh, I'm sorry, man. Blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Not sincere about it or anything. So it's like, yeah, but at least in the show, he's actually like an actual character, though, where, we learn about his family life. Well, not learn about it, but we see his family life with his brother. He's got nephews, his girlfriend, like all that stuff. He's not just another, like, oh, yeah, just a generic villain kind of character or generic, whatever inside the boys. But going back to what I was saying though, but so that is pretty cool to see though. And I think the avatar forms are also counted as like different characters apart from like Korra and Aang. So you got Nightmare Korra and stuff, which is Korra in her avatar state, which is supposed to be like the PTSD visions that Korra was seeing and stuff like that. So that's pretty interesting to me. Which also kind of reminds me of like hearing the like, oh, Nightmare Korra reminds me of like Nightmare Geese from Fatal Fury, or not Fatal Fury. Well, yeah, Fatal Fury, but King of Fighters, where like Geese is dead, but then there's this like apparition or something of like geese or whatever called Nightmare Geese. So that's what that reminds me of. And then there's Aang in his Avatar state mode and whatnot as well. That's a separate character. So the interactions are pretty different from one another. So that's actually pretty, like I said, that's pretty cool. But I feel like personally myself, now that I'm guessing we're going to get to the Avatar Seven Havens now, it's kind of ironic because like with all this Avatar stuff, like Legends of Aang, the Netflix Avatar show, and then this fighting game, I feel like they're really just trying to butter us up because they're definitely going to they're definitely killing off like a lot of the characters from like between Last Airbender and Legends of Korra, without a doubt, especially from Last Airbender, because at this point yeah, like even though a lot of those characters like, Katara, Zuko, and Toph, they were like in their 80s by the time in Legends of Korra, right? And now that we're into Seven Havens and stuff, this is taking place in a later future. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, nah, we know that they're gonna pass away at this point and stuff, which is kind of like sad to like hear or see or whatever or think about. But I don't know, it is what it is. It's just like damn. But and with Korra's friends though, um, I can see some of Korra's friends surviving. I don't know how far in the distant future is Korra's like is the new Avatar. I can't remember her name, Polly or something. But yeah, I don't know how far away in the future that is per se. It can't be that distant per se, but it's like yeah. But if that's the case, then I would say like yeah, Bolin, Mako, Asami, and some of them they could probably be alive. Tenzin, probably not, because Tenzin was like in his 50s by the time in Legends of, like by the end of the Legend of Korra. So, yeah, nah, I don't think he's probably definitely not alive in this new era. Pavi, yes, thank you, Taylor. Yeah, Pavi and stuff. But I will give you my opinion on the trailer, though. I do think the trailer, like now, I do have my critiques is mainly with the concept alone with the show, which I've already kind of put out there. Where I'm like, oh great, we're focusing on another female avatar this time again, which we already had that with Korra, which was fine. And if you really wanted a female avatar to focus on, You could have focused on the past Avatar like Kyoshi or Yang Chen, which they have novelizations of anyways, of both of those characters that they can just go back on. But, instead of just making another female Avatar and stuff like that, because this is a boy show at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, but it is what it is. But um, despite my critiques for it, I will say that the trailer actually looks pretty good. As much as I hate to say it, I'm like, it does look actually pretty good though. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like, all right, the trailer is pretty decent and stuff, and maybe I like probably will definitely like tune in and check it out for the most part. I mean, I probably will have to be sucked into it anyways, especially if I'm going to, because me, I'm on the whole Korra defense train and stuff like that. And it's funny too because that trailer came out yesterday, and and I posted that whole thing where I was like talking to Jay Lagoon about, or responding to Jay Lagoon about his whole, oh well, about his whole Kavira thing and all that, and he was like, "Oh, Kavira isn't a good metal bender, or Toph is better in comparison," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, okay. First off, well, you can see my comments and stuff because he made like 5, 6 videos about it, probably like 5 videos about it and stuff. And specifically, he was pointing out my comments and stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's funny. But but a week later, I did my response to his video and stuff. So there was that. I don't know if he's seen it yet. I don't think he's seen it yet. But yeah, but that should be interesting though. My opinion, Seven Haven Designs for was less for both Avatar and Korra. I don't know what you mean by less. But anyways, where was I at? Saying something about Avatar, Seven Havens. But oh no, about yeah, Jay Lagoon. So yeah, so I'm like, yeah, because we got into this whole argument or whatever. I don't know where that argument specifically came from, where he had to like be all like, But I just gave my genuine opinion that I think that it's not that one side of a fight. If Korra, I mean not Korra, if Kavira and Toph have fought and stuff, that it's not going to be a one-sided fight, or or at least like Kavira can definitely beat a 12-year-old Toph. I mean, like when you really think about it, because yeah, and I know some people be like, oh well, Su Yin is like her daughter, and Toph taught her daughter everything. Okay, but if we're talking like a 12-year-old Toph and stuff, 12-year-old Toph is good, but she wasn't like that good where compared to like her daughters who are like now in their like 50s at this point in the series and stuff like that, that knows what she knows and can do a lot of the stuff that seemed like a little bit impossible for the times. Yeah, I think Kavira could beat 12-year-old Toph. Now, if it's like Toph in her prime, like when she's in her 40s and stuff like that or something, then that's probably a different story. That could be a fight. But we haven't seen too many feats from that version though. So to like determine anything. So that's where I stand at. So apparently that was just too controversial. For honestly, I watched Korra season 1. I meant Seven Haven Designs was not same designs from both Avatar and Korra. Yeah, like it's kind of weird. Like the animation or the character designs are a little bit, or the animation itself is a little bit different. But you know how they do with the whole anime-ish kind of style they have sometimes. For like Avatar. But anyways, where was I at? Um, but yeah, but I'm gonna like get off that subject right now with the whole Kavira thing and whatnot. But still, let's see. But yeah, but Seven Havens though. So yeah, and it's coming soon. So it's around the corner. So like I said, I'll probably check it out when it comes and stuff. Like I said, it looks pretty interesting. Not a fan of the concept itself, but you know what? Might as well. I mean, I've been honestly kind of wanting like when it comes to Avatar. Avatar is to me like one of those things where I'm like, you know what? Maybe they should probably just hang it up or something like that, or just like let it go. But it's also at the same time like I know a lot of people love the Last Airbender, but it's kind of like we've returned to Last Airbender so many times and stuff, whether it be the movies, whether it be the Netflix version, whether it be the comic books, whether it be the cartoon itself. Like we get it. That's what I'm saying, like, we gotta move on from it and stuff. That's kind of why I kind of appreciate Legends of Korra a little bit, because we kinda do move on and we do kinda see, like, a little bit more of a, different kinda take and a more modern, that kind of thing and stuff like that. So, that's just where I'm at with that. You heard of Godzilla versus Kong? Deaf actress Kaylee, Hoyle had passed away. I didn't know that. That's unfortunate. But yeah. But speaking about people that passed away though, I did a drawing of, Tom Kane and, Daveigh Chase, the voice actress of Lilo, and, Chihiro from, Lilo and Stitch and, Spirited Away. So, if if I don't get tired or whatever, I'll probably color that drawing in. But, I mean, Imma still show you guys what I got and what I'm, like, working on. I might do a drawing stream well, I already said this already, but I'll say it again. I'll probably do a drawing stream tomorrow as well, but I might do it on, like, some other stuff that I had in mind, which I'm thinking about doing Sailor Moon characters and stuff. So, look forward to that. But, yeah. What else can I talk about with you guys? Do I also did rewatch BVS again, for fun and whatnot, 'cause, who knows if I'll do a video on this or not in the future, but I did tell I think it was Steven or somebody in the comments that, I was thinking about, like, maybe possibly, like, they were like, "Can you do, like, a breakdown just like what I do with Henry Cavill's Superman with Ben Affleck's Batman?" But I had another idea in mind that I was thinking about, like, doing a side-by-side kinda comparison between the, comics that it was based on and the movie itself, like the, Dark Knight Returns comic book, because I have the comic book and I just, like, read it recently, and I'm like, "Man, this kind of really makes me appreciate, BVS a lot like, a lot more and stuff like the stuff they were doing and stuff because they really did respect, like, the actual comic itself, and even though the context is a little bit different and stuff like that, it's actually pretty good. Let's see, our news. But yeah. Oh, yeah, and I guess a lot of this stuff is coming out now because it's San Diego, Comic-Con and all that stuff as well. For my opinion, Seven Havens should exist or made as a turn of apocalyptic Mad Max Avatar world. That could be interesting. Oh, yeah, and that can also be a way of, like, I guess, redeeming Korra in a way, because I know a lot of people kinda blame Korra for, like, the whole spiritual stuff or whatever and stuff like that, like, with the whole spirit world and stuff, and her leaving the portal open so that humans and spirits maybe it probably didn't have the writers wanted to have a different type of thing on that, but now they're like, the fans weren't exactly a huge fan of that, so maybe we might have to undo it or something like that, that kind of thing. But, but aside from that though, maybe they're, like and now they're trying to be like, "Oh, well, Korra screwed up the world," and stuff like that, and now the new Avatar has to, like, put everything back together and stuff like that, but I'm probably like it's probably like a red herring or, like, where it's some kind of, like there's probably more context to it that'll probably be like, that's gonna, like, come up later and be like, "Oh, this isn't what happened, and, so and so, and she got blamed," or whatever. I can easily see something like that happening. Should not exist. Oh, Seven Havens should not exist or made as a turn of apocalypse Mad Max. And then on top of that, I feel like it's probably because the creators of Avatar have kinda gotten a little bit they might have ran out of ideas because one minute, they were working on Voltron, if I'm not mistaken, the, legendary defender, and then later on, they ended up working on, Dragon Prince, which Dragon Prince was a good show. Still have not finished that final season yet, though, but, it was a pretty decent show for the most part, and then, after that, they are kinda going back to Avatar now. So, I'm just like, "You guys were kinda just better off just working on other shows or creating new shows for people to enjoy versus like revisit Avatar, which I understand it's Avatar because Avatar was like such a milestone when it came to like animation and like storytelling for us back then. But now it's kind of like, yeah, they're kind of overdoing it. I know you guys see those X-Men. The next Avatar show should have been male. I'm not too sold on it right now. Yeah, I feel the same way. I do feel like the next Avatar should have been a male. And honestly, like I said before, in another stream, I was like, I think they should have like bought the rights from that guy that came up with Avatar Genji and just been like and made that like into a possibility that could have worked too. But yeah, so I've already kind of ranted and gave out my whole spiel about, oh, great. So we're doing this disabled female avatar, woman of color, etc. So I'm like, okay, we're doing all that stuff again. Even though you sort of had that with Korra, despite the stable part, but it's kind of like now you're trying to like throw in this whole Toph bit because Toph was such a cool concept of a character being blind and everything. But like I said, looking at the trailer and stuff, I thought, you know what, this isn't bad. Like it does not look that bad at all. Not a huge fan of the concept, but sure looks fine. But anyways, where was I at? But how's it going, SSJ? Welcome to the stream. I request your opinion on Korra is still 1920s concept of Republic City. It works too chronologically. Yeah, yeah, that's why I was also a little interested in the world because I'm like, yeah, it really felt like it was really progressing and very like, kind of like starting to like really dabble into like the technology and stuff aspect of like Avatar as well and whatnot. Even though it was kind of like sort of like set in the past, kind of like Full Metal Alchemist in a way, but at the same time, it's kind of like uh, yeah, kind of like a steampunk kind of thing. But yeah, but anyways, but yeah, the San Diego Comic Con and all that. So apparently DC had revealed stuff like Clayface and lanterns and stuff. To be honest with you, I was never really interested in Clayface like that. I mean, now look, if they did a Clayface movie, I mean, like a Batman movie where it's called like Batman Clayface or something, that's what I would have done. Not this whole let's do Clayface and no Batman. Like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. I want AIM back. They could have animated his Avengers as an adult. I know they had the comics, but they were just okay. Well, I feel like that would have been redundant if they well, like I said, the movie was pretty cool, Legends of Aang, but I feel like that would have been redundant to be honest with you because we know Aang's gonna survive all this or he's gonna die or something like that. Um, because of the whole what you call it, because his body and the whole ice and all that stuff, and being in the Avatar state for so long. So I just feel like that's a little redundant to be honest. But anyways, yeah, Clayface is unnecessary and another Joker and Venom. Exactly. That's exactly what Clayface is. Because I'm like, why would you guys do like a Clayface movie? But it's probably like one of those things where this kind of reminds me of like and this isn't to throw Jay Leno on the bus, but that kind of reminds me because sometimes he says like, well, the villains carry the movies over the main hero, and I'm starting to think, you know what? It's not. I wouldn't say he's completely wrong, but the reason why the audience kind of gravitates to like the villains in a way is because they do like crazy out of pocket things and stuff like that that the heroes don't do, whereas the heroes are more sane people and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, oh, like for example, Heath Ledger's Joker, like Heath Ledger's Joker, like both Christian Bale and Heath Ledger were good as Batman and the Joker, but Heath Ledger's Joker, like literally, he literally, like he got thrown off a building and stuff with wires and everything, of course, but like got thrown off a building, and this man was able to laugh and everything and stuff like that, and had this whole insanity thing, and wasn't like screaming or nothing crazy. So that is like a level of acting and stuff. You know what I mean? I don't think it would be redundant. They could have showed the adventures and filled the gaps on screen. No, I mean, I feel like it's redundant because, like, what would be the purpose of that? You know? I mean, because we already know Aang is already, like, yeah, the Avatar. Rest in peace, Chuck Russell. I did not know who that is. But anyways, yeah, that's just how I personally feel. I just feel like, yeah, it'd be redundant because, like, again, we already know how it ends with Aang and the characters and stuff. So it's just like you just want to see it for the sake of seeing it, which is cool as like a side story, but not as like a main focal point. So I just rather get something a little bit new than just, you know. But anyways, Clayface. So where was I at? Yeah. So it's just like one of those things where they're like, the villains do some out of pocket stuff that people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he did it," and you want to see it and stuff like that. But to have the villain without the hero, it just doesn't work. Agree to disagree. All right, but anyways, the Clayface thing though. Um, and besides, I mean, well, never mind. I'm not gonna go on the whole Aang thing right now. It could work if Korra was a pre-teen orphan as she struggled or her bending upon she escaped sneaking her life into Republic City. Well, that would be kind of like a semi kind of retcon because Korra never really had any friends until she met Mako and Bolin, and she spent most of her time, you know, like training with her like guardians and stuff like that, and the White Lotus to like learn how to fight and everything and be a proper avatar and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say it's a tragedy, but it's also at the same time kinda like, that is kinda like a thing for Korra where, she doesn't really get out a whole lot or that's, like, why the first episode is like a whole like, it's like a breath of fresh air for her, where she's like, "Oh, wow, I'm in the city, and I'm, like, around other people, and I'm not, like, treated like, so and so," you know what I mean? But she does kinda feel like a superhero in a kinda way. Yeah, I don't care for Clayface, I hope it fails. Yeah, it's probably gonna fail, and so I'm definitely gonna say that now. But yeah, it's just like the Joker and, Venom and stuff or those, Sony Spider-Man movies because I'm like, if it's not Clayface fighting Batman, then why should I care? And stuff like where you're trying to make the villain all sympathetic, but then he's probably gonna still do terrible things and stuff like that? So I'm just like, that's pretty dumb. And then, yeah, so I don't know. Now I will say the first Clayface I was introduced to when I was younger was actually, from the Batman, the 2004 version with, what you call it, Ethan Bennett and stuff, Bruce Wayne's friend. So, in the Batman now, I know a lot of people have problems with, like, race swaps and stuff. Let me I know a lot of people have problems with race swaps and stuff like that, nowadays, which, yeah, it is kind of like a little bit of a problem, definitely, but back then and Ethan Bennett, he wasn't like a race swap, he was kinda like his own kinda character, and then they decided to kinda make him like an amalgamation of, like, Clayface and Two-Face and stuff where, Ethan was, like, Bruce Wayne's best friend and whatnot, and he was a, really, like, good friend of Bruce Wayne, and he was actually, like, very close and believed in Batman and his cause, just like Harvey Dent and stuff like that, but then, the Joker broke, Ethan and stuff, kind of like, destroyed his, sanity and stuff like that, and also, the little chemicals, the little Joker putty thing that he had spread on him and stuff like that had, like, turned him into Clayface. So, that was his origin in that show, and then eventually, he got cured and all that from that later on. But, he was a pretty interesting, character in that version, though. So I will say that. So but that was my introduction to Clayface as a character. And when I know, of course, like, there's, like, Matt Hagen and, what's his face? Basil Carlo. But I think, the movie, they're currently using the Batman the Animated Series stuff, so it's more so because they said it was Matt Hagen and stuff, and they're doing that route. Because in the comics, Matt Hagen wasn't an actor, it was actually Basil Carlo who was the actor. So so I see what they're doing with that one. But, as his own standalone movie, nah. There's too many race swaps hang on. Oop. There's too many race swaps these days. I hate them. Helen of Troy, Odyssey, race swap Black, that movie focus. Yeah, nowadays. But I'm talking about like back then though, with like Ethan. Like Ethan was a pretty decent character. Like he wasn't like a race swap of like Harvey Dent or or Basil Carlo. He was kind of just, Ethan Bennett, police officer and best friend of Bruce Wayne, where he kind of was like a stand-in for their roles for a while until they introduced the real Clayface, which was Basil Carlo later, and made him Clayface number two in that show and whatnot. So it kind of that's how you can kind of make it work. But nowadays is like, yeah, sometimes people are just doing this, especially the historic characters or historic like literature and stuff like that, where it just doesn't make any sense. Check it out, I drew Iceman. Well, let me show you guys what I got so far. Yep, the X Men. But I could probably also do some shading and stuff to it. I didn't care for them back then either. Ethan was a different character in Batman's case. Wait, which character? If Amazon's A Train is alive or never had a redemption, or he get killed by Butcher, it works. Um, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I guess I prefer the route of what they went so far with A Train. If anything, I mean, personally myself, if they were to kill him off like a one off, like well, not a one off, but I would have like, yeah, they could have killed him off a lot earlier, like when he had that heart attack, when he with the whole Blue Hawk situation. I think that would have been a perfectly good opportunity to kind of get rid of A Train. But since they wanted to do this whole redemption stuff and A Train actually was helping out and doing stuff, then I'm like, okay. And showing you that there is actually good within the world of the boys. I kind of prefer the redemption arc a little bit. But anyways, Iceman looks cool. Yep, appreciate it. Yeah, I kind of changed up his design a little bit because this is the classic X-Men, but I kind of gave him like I mixed some of the designs of Iceman a little bit, like the hair part, because Iceman's supposed to look like a well, like literally like a man in ice and stuff like the Silver Surfer or something like that. But I was like, you know what? Let me give him his hair, like how he does sometimes and stuff like that, and kind of make his outfit like the uniform look like the uniform that they're all supposed to be wearing. Angel, he kind of look like Space Ghost a little bit though. Odyssey is not historically, but historically inaccurate fictional story to erase Greek history with full DI. No excuse. I mean, no sense. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I'm not really interested in the Odyssey for my own personal reasons. I'm just like, not really interested. Um, my aunt actually, she just saw it the other day with her boyfriend and stuff, and they kind of enjoyed it and stuff. And I kind of look at them as their perspective as like the general audience type character. I mean, I say character, the general audience, where they're kind of like they're not like heavily critical about stuff, but it's also at the same time they're like I'm just there for the ride or I enjoy it just because and stuff like that. That kind of thing. And they're like, "Well, yeah, the acting was good for the most part." And, they did have some, actors in there like John Berthal, Tom Holland, who else? I think Zendaya was in there. Uh, yeah, there was other people in there too, I can't remember who. I think wasn't it Christian no, Robert Pattinson, I think he was in there as well, and a few others, but yeah, trust me, A-Train should have died from the heart attack. Yeah, if they had made the series a little bit more smaller than 5 seasons and stuff, and they kept it at, like, let's say 3, then, yeah, I think Adrian probably should have died of the heart attack, though. But since they had kept it going for so long, yeah, be like Oppenheimer, race swapping Oppenheimer to dark-skinned black man or Martin Luther King movie, casting a white guy, yeah. Yeah, no, that's why it's kinda confusing with some of these things, it's like, you know yeah, especially like when you do that to historic fiction or well not historic fiction, but historic like literature or mythology and stuff like that. It's like, oh well they were always like that and you're like telling the kids and stuff, like, and it's kind of like you're just trying to rewrite history now to fit your own to fit your own kind of perspective or your own kind of purpose and stuff. All right, let me work on Angel. I kind of drew Angel a little awkward and stuff compared to the others, sort of, because I drew him before I drew Iceman. I'm like, all right, so I drew Jean first, and then I drew Cyclops, or maybe Beast and the Cyclops. I kind of drew this from like different images of the characters instead of like one whole group shot of them together because there's other like stuff that was in the way or whatever. I just felt like drawing it this way. So I drew these three first, and then I drew Angel, but I didn't know how I was going to draw Iceman. So before I finished drawing Angel's wing or whatever, I was like, well, let me try to have Iceman a little bit, but then Iceman's a little bit in the front, and the Angel's wing is right here, and all that, and he's like looking like he's about to pass Iceman or whatever, or fly past him. So I'm like, but hopefully the coloring can definitely like be the saving grace and stuff, and like the old Odyssey was better than the new one. All right, that's pretty cool. Look, Anne Boleyn cast the Black Queen of England in real life, and she should be dead, but shortly then longer. Yeah, yeah, that's true. But no, I mean, I'm just saying though. Yeah, I don't agree with race swaps either myself, or whatever. I know that was a big controversy thing, but it's like nowadays, like because back then it was kind of just like with maybe a character or two in a movie, but nowadays it's kind of just done. Because they have this whole mandate of like, oh, okay, well, everything has to be diverse so that they can get awards or nominations and stuff like that. Versus like trying to be historically accurate or whatever and stuff like that. So it is what it is. But but yeah, but it's not right though, of course, and they know that now that there's a backlash for it, they're still gonna try and trickle down on it or be like, oh, well, the people are racist because they didn't like this person that was casted as this, and I'm like, that's not the criticism that's being made. So yeah, so it's like people don't want to like understand the argument and stuff like that that's being made. Be like the cast of oh god of Osama bin Laden and a black woman in the movie. Yeah, yeah, we kind of got the point. Yeah, we kind of got the point on that one. Black Snape is an issue too. Oh yeah, yeah, that is definitely an issue. Like, how you gonna put it in London? Now, of course, there are black people in London, even in the '90s. But how you gonna like race swap Snape to being black and stuff? You know what I mean? And like Snape is like one of the most prominent characters in Harry Potter, and you would think something like that would have came up before about him being black, but you can't just have him go from like white to black just like that. That's stupid. You know? Yeah, like I'm just saying, like that's pretty stupid. And then it's also pretty worse too. Now, I haven't read the Harry Potter books, but I'm aware of like Snape's origin. That Snape was like bullied like crazy by Harry's dad and stuff by James Potter. He was like really picked on and bullied, uh, talked crazy about and stuff like that. Harry and his friends, uh, since Snape was always like uh, kind of creeping or skulking on them or whatever and stuff like that. They were like they always kind of saw Snape as a bit of a creep and stuff for years and whatnot until they realized what he actually did mean well. Snape was born in the 30s and 40s. Hmm. That would probably make sense. I mean, so Snape will probably be like what in his 70s or 60s by the time in Harry Potter. I could have sworn he was born after a little bit after that though, at least the 60s maybe or 50s probably, because Harry Potter is set in the 1990s and stuff, and Snape will have to be at least in his, I would say at best maybe in his 40s around that time. But that's just me speculating though. Andy Shankar versus M Night Shyamalan. Hey, I almost want to. I really hate Andy Shankar. I respect M Night Shyamalan more, uh, just as a filmmaker, I guess. But I think I want to lean towards Andy Shankar in terms of like I guess the stuff that he puts out in terms of like But he is, yeah, yeah, he is terrible though. Let's see what else I got on the chopping block here. Oh yeah, Lanterns. Yeah, so Lanterns. The trailer for that also came out as well. Um, it looks a little bit more, I guess, sort of action packed, I guess, compared to before in the teasers. But to be honest with you, I'm just like Lanterns. Like I'm telling you right now, that show is not going to be better than the Green Lantern 2011 movie by Ryan Reynolds that everybody had, like, hated on and stuff like that for years, and I'm like, "That movie really wasn't all that bad," you know? And I'm kinda going myself, like, with the Lanterns trailer, I'm like, "Okay, well, this is supposed to be Lanterns, then where or the Green Lanterns and stuff, then where's the aliens at?" Or whatever. At least the, 2011 version had Sinestro, right? Or Kilowog or Tomare. But, I mean, they just showed, Sinestro in the recent trailer, and I'm like, "Alright," but Sinestro doesn't look all that red, or whatever compared to, like, the one from the, 2011 version where he looked like he looks smack like Sinestro, you know? So it's just weird. Yeah, it would be better than the 2011 film, but not by much. Nah, it's not gonna be better, man. That movie I mean, that show is not gonna be better than that, and that movie wasn't even all that bad, to be honest, as people were trying to make it seem like it was. Andy Shankar and M. Night Shyamalan should team up. Nah, they ain't gonna team up, and fuck up our favorite classic franchises. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think for M. Night Shyamalan, it's really just Avatar that a lot of people have a problem with, and then I think just, like, he just does these, like, weird type of films or whatever, for the most part, but I wouldn't say, like, he makes a habit of doing it. I mean, he tried with Avatar, but he's just yeah, he's not like it's just not his style, I guess. And then Andy Shankar, he worked the reason why I'm saying I side with him a little bit in terms of, like, what I'll watch I'll probably watch his stuff more is because Andy Shankar does work in that field of, like, video games and stuff like that, video game-based shows like Castlevania and, Devil May Cry, which I will probably even though those shows are kind of, like, definitely have its problems, I would probably watch that more so than I'll watch M. Night Shyamalan stuff, to be honest. So that's what I meant by that. But nah, The Lancers is definitely not gonna be better than the 2011 Green Lantern movie and stuff. It really did not look interesting. They're on Earth, doing I don't know what, and then they're talking about the Manhunters or something like that, and they're like shapeshifters. Now, I don't know a whole lot of Green Lantern lore like that. I'm going to be completely honest, but I'm pretty sure the Manhunters weren't shapeshifters. I could be wrong on that. I know that they were originally the original Green Lanterns from back in the day that the Guardians had established before they established the Corps. So they're kind of like their rivals or arch rivals and stuff. So if you remember, like Justice League, they had like that Brightest Day episode with John Stewart and stuff where he got framed for like destroying a planet and stuff like that, which is all just a setup by the Manhunters so that they can enact their plan to overthrow the Guardians and all this other stuff. The 2011 film wasn't good, bro. We all agree to disagree, but nah, that show would be. Mm, I mean, really, was it all that bad? Or like, because again, a lot of people will say a lot of stuff online doesn't mean that it's true and stuff, you know? Because I'm just like, because like, what was really that bad about it? Like, in your personal opinion, as a J? Because I'm just like, really, like, I just seen a lot of people just hit on that movie and stuff just purely for like no reason, and I'm like, a lot of people do not really know Green Lantern like that, to be honest. I'm not saying I know Green Lantern like that either, but for the most part, I've heard some stuff like people be like, "Oh, well, I don't like the 2011 movie because it featured Hal Jordan instead of John Stewart or something like that." For example, because people were more familiar with John Stewart at the time before Hal Jordan, so stuff like that. What if Firecracker was alive in season one? I mean, season five. I mean, I don't think that would have made much of a difference, to be honest. I mean, granted, I kind of wanted her, like when they were doing the little, what was it? Kind of like a, damn, it's on the top of my head. Not a eulogy, but anthology. Yeah, they were doing those little anthology, like they did little anthology episodes when they were focusing on different characters and perspectives and stuff. They should have at least had Firecracker and stuff, at least like portray Homelander, and she actually go out that kind of way versus, oh, she's like super subservient to Homelander and stuff because she kind of views him like her own kind of child or something like that. Like I don't know, that's yeah, it was just weird, but yeah, never really heard people excuse it for not liking. Oh yeah, no, people definitely used to hate on that movie because they were like, Well, because they would have preferred, and that's why they went with Jon Stewart in this version because this whole him and Hal Jordan thing and stuff like that. Because they're like, all right, well, we're gonna have Jon Stewart replace Hal Jordan since now we want Jon Stewart to be the Green Lantern since we kind of grew up with him and stuff in Justice League. So that's like one of the reasons. But there's other stuff too. But I'm just like, was that movie really that bad where people just gotta like keep like really shitting on it like that bad? But I'm just saying. Anyways, let's see. Because yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys noticed. So like with me, I'm not exactly somebody that likes to really go with the crowd either. So I'm like, yeah, because like when I saw the movie and stuff, I wasn't like, oh my god, this is the worst movie ever and stuff like that. I was like, no, I thought it was pretty good, and I still have it on DVD too, where I'm like, yeah. But as a Jeff, have you seen the 2011 Green Lantern recently and stuff like that, or when was like the last time you've really seen it? Let me know. Like I'm pretty sure you probably still won't change your mind, and you'll probably still be like, I still don't like it, or still not good. But I'm just like, it's really not that bad. It's kind of just a basic movie, if anything. Is it the best movie in the world? Nah, not really. But it was all right. Let's see. Remember the 2011 Green Lantern cluttered script? Tone was all over. I don't know how the tone was all over, but okay. Generic cloud smoke villain CGI was awful. Yeah, older film, but still not great to look at. Okay, I mean, have you not seen what Parallax looks like in the comics? Now, granted, Parallax looks like some kind of green, like not green, some like giant yellow buggish kind of character, but he's still a giant CGI type monster, or he would have had to been that anyways. Yeah, it was bad. You enjoy it? Cool, but it was not good. Last time I've seen it was 2020. Still bad. I wouldn't go out my way to rewatch it. All right, that was like what 6 years ago. Well, that's not too distant though, but still, it's really not that bad of a movie. It's not even that long either. And I don't really see how the tone was like all over the place for the most part. I mean, yeah, it had some joke moments, I guess, in the beginning, sort of. But yeah, it definitely took itself seriously and stuff like that. With Hector Hammond and all that, and the whole Amanda Waller thing and whatnot. Like I remember, like when they like when they took in or captured Hector Hammond and stuff, and they were about to experiment on him and stuff like that. He like made the syringe go into the guy or whatever stuff like that. That was kind of crazy. Are you rather an Aang and Katara romantic or a Zuko? You already know the answer to that, Taylor. You already know the answer. You already know. I'm not really all for Zuko and Katara. I'm not saying like I'm not saying that they're a bad they would make a bad couple, but I just yeah, I never saw that ever being an option, especially when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, of course Aang and Katara are gonna get together because Aang has feelings for Katara and whatnot. You know, yeah, Angel's actually looking pretty cool. But I'm just like, yeah, like Aang likes Katara, so I knew that they were gonna be together anyways. So that's a no-brainer on that one. Uh, I never really saw like Zuko and Katara ever have any kind of like romantic love interest in each other like that, let alone like because when I was a kid, like I never really thought Zuko would really go like I never understood the whole concept of redemption too much, or I didn't see it a whole lot during when Avatar was a thing. And then when I saw it with Zuko and stuff, I was like, oh okay, Zuko is now a hero and stuff. Oh my god, that's pretty cool and stuff like that. And that's how I felt with that. So, but even then, I was like, I never really thought like Zuko and Katara would ever be a thing, or that was just a like a joke or whatever. That was just ongoing with the people. Zuko and Katara is a dumb shit. Yeah, it's a weird shit, but especially the fangirls and stuff like that. I think they just like it because Katara and Zuko probably look like a very, I guess, like a hot power couple or something like that. That's how I guess how they look at it, but I wouldn't yeah, I don't ship them together. Aang could have pulled that cute Fire Nation girl he, danced with if he wanted to. Yeah, yeah, he probably could've. Even some people would try to ship, Aang with, Toph and stuff back in the day, they're like, "Oh, yeah, well, I thought Aang was gonna get with Toph." Uh, I don't see Aang and Toph, together like that, Friends, cool, but not like that, nah. But I feel like, they kinda play with that too a little bit when we got to Legends of Korra because, their children, Tenzin and, Lin, had previously dated, so that's why I think, yeah, they kinda did that though. So that's a good compromise, but, yeah, for that at least, or that's how I would say, like, even Netflix Avatar was alleged at Zutara level. Oof. They should stay away from that. They should not do that. They should definitely not do that. I never had a single person shipping and Toph, never. That's new to me. Ugh, excuse me. But yeah, that's yeah, I think people yeah, some people used to ship them together. And that's what I'm saying, like that's probably why they shipped what you call it, Tenzin and Lin together inside Avatar. Well, not ship them together, but they were a couple and stuff as a compromise to that. Well, obviously they broke up in the past and whatnot, but still. But that's what I think some of those Zutara fans were talking about when they were like, "Oh, well, I thought Aang would get with, like, Toph or something or whatever." I'm like, "Well, clearly Katara is the main girl and the one that he's been with the most and the first girl that he saw when he woke up from the ice, so of course he fell in love with her and everything, and that they were gonna be a thing." Or how Katara is very protective of Aang at times, so duh. Oh, yeah, this is definitely looking really good. Let me check Netflix, Avatar never did Zutara stuff, they just teaming up in Boston say, okay. Where elderly Sokka and Korra. Sokka's dead inside Legends of Korra and stuff, that's why he's not around and stuff. Katara mentioned it in the, first episode when she was talking to Korra when she said that, "My brother and most of my friends have passed away." So that kinda confirmed that, yeah, Sokka had passed away in between, when they found Korra, to be the Avatar in the, Southern Water Drive. Damn, I'm like an hour and 20 I mean, I'm an hour and 12 minutes in this, stream. Well, I'm almost finished with this anyways. But I'm definitely not gonna be able to probably show you well, eh, I probably can. Well, I mean, I can still show you, but I mean, like, actually complete the drawings, the other drawings and stuff. And, like, the first girl he saw. Yeah, it's poetic. And then remember the Cave of Two Lovers, thing and stuff, they kissed in that one too. How did Sokka die? Like I said, I mean, they didn't specify, but it was probably old age. They coulda let Sokka live old and be funny. I mean, Sokka, Sokka outlived Aang and stuff. We just didn't see him old inside Legends of Korra though, and so that's the thing. Cause here's the history. So like, pretty much Aang died when he was like 66 or 166 if you want to be technical. That's what's listed on the Avatar thing. So Aang died in his 60s because like he was trapped in the Avatar state for 100 years, frozen in ice. So that had a negative toll on Aang's body, where over time his body started to deteriorate, and then that's what killed it. Like that's what Aang died of, and stuff like that. And then later on, of course, Korra was born and whatnot. Now, Tenzin mentioned in his story about the Red Lotus that Sokka was still alive around this time because Sokka helped Tenzin and Zuko and Korra's dad defeat the Red Lotus and capture the members. Well, four of their members, which was Guzan, Zahir, Pali, and Ming Hua. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Sorry, I'm talking about the John and Ming Hua and stuff. So, and then after that, Saga probably passed away off screen. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I would have loved to see Saga though, and I would have loved if he had settled down with like Suki or something like that, or we like saw him having kids. That would have been pretty cool too. But yeah, so I was just like, Saga's still with Suki before his death. I don't know. They never revealed much what happened to Suki after the last Airbender. I wish, or I like that's my headcanon, is like I think they were just still together. I'd be pretty pissed off if they broke them off as teenagers and we never heard from Suki again. I'd be pretty pissed about that. But we don't know. I know how Aang died. I just don't see the reason why Sokka couldn't have lived old with Katara instead of we see flashbacks. I mean, it's not wrong and stuff. I mean, like I said, I would have loved to see Sokka. I do like the character, but I mean, it is what it is. Although we did kind of see like but of course we did get other characters though inside Legends of Korra that did make appearances like Iroh and stuff like that, or we got like because I mean even though Iroh was dead, but he was in the spirit world and stuff like that. Of course, we saw Zuko and Toph as well later on and whatnot, where Zuko had showed up when the Red Lotus was like when word about them when they were breaking out, and Zahira became an Airbender, and then later on when Korra traveled alone and she met Toph in the swamp and stuff like that. So, you know, there was that. But no, I just don't really see like the entire reason to really keep Sokka alive though. Unless it's for like, sentimental reasons, which I mean, I would have appreciated, but yeah, it's just one of those sad things. Man, I forgot about Suki too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, man, I'm curious, like, whatever happened to Suki inside Legends of Korra, though. That's how I feel. Like, yeah, I kind of was like, man, Sokka and Suki should have settled down, had some kids, or something like that. But I mean, like I said, that's just my head can, though. I don't know if they did or not. I don't know if whatever, but that'd be nice to know, you know. And sometimes I'd be thinking too of like, what you call it, Grand, which I know she's obviously passed away at this point, and some Legends of Korra definitely, or like Hakoda, uh, Katara and Sokka's dad and stuff, which I know again he's passed away too, and stuff most likely. So, but it still would have been interesting to kind of know like what became of them and stuff like that or whatever. Let's see what else. What other topics do I got? But let's see. I guess I can show you guys my recent comics after I'm done drawing. But apparently they did a new TMNT thing where there's a new TMNT cartoon out about the turtles, and it's like a very kiddie show and stuff about like a preschool show about the turtles being 8 or whatever, which is kind of dumb. I'm just like, why are you guys doing this? Like, why you guys got to make the turtles like they're like, oh, we well we were like we seen the turtles as like teenagers and stuff, but how about we see them like what it was like when they were 8? Who the hell cares? What it would be like if they were 8? Like, there's no adventure in that, you know? I mean, yeah, sure, there was sometimes, and trust me, I'm a huge Ninja Turtle fan. I've read a lot of their stories, even stories dealing with their like side stories when they're like children and stuff like that, which is pretty decent. But do I want to see a preschool show about it as a fan? Not really. But I know they're trying to go for something like that whole. I think it was Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, not the '80s Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, but the one with Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy and stuff like that, or Spider Gwen and whatnot in Spider Man. Yeah, they had that little kid show, that little CGI one. Yeah, that's what I feel like this new TMNT cartoon is about to be. Uh, whereas like that type of show. Teen Titans Go Curse. I wouldn't say it's the Teen Titans Go Curse. It's not going that far, but it's just it's a preschool or yeah, like a little preschool type show for Ninja Turtle, like for like kids that are into Ninja Turtles and stuff, where they're like 8. But I'm just like, I mean, look, when the 2003 show came out, I was like 4 years old when that show came out, and I had no problem watching that show. That show was very, um, well, not very adult, but it had a lot of adult or a lot of, dark moments in it that wasn't for kids and stuff like that, or things that really pushed like 4Kids had a lot of stuff back then that really pushed the boundaries of, adult. Like, the animes, they kind of desensitized the animes and made them a little bit kiddie, but like, kinda like Sonic X a little bit, but a lot of their own personal, shows that they had made or the cartoons that they had on their program was pretty dark. You know, they had some pretty dark moments on that stuff. So I'm just saying, like, why is it, like, gotta be like a and oh, yeah, sorry, I read that. So, anyways, um, yeah, but they had a lot of dark moments and stuff on that show, and I was watching that since I was, like, 4. So I'm like, "Okay, so if a four-year-old can watch the show" well, when he's not really supposed to, but, it was on 4Kids. Then I should have no like, then why are kids today like, "Oh, okay, well, they gotta watch this preteen like, this" well, not preteen, but preschool show with the Ninja Turtles. Or if you're gonna compromise, at least have, like, this show, but an actual good TMNT show side by side, right? Where if you don't like this, at least you're getting this, you know? Because I mean, we just got a show with the Ninja Turtles and stuff as, like, little kids and stuff like that anyways, or 15-year-olds where they're like, "Oh, they're acting like modern teenagers," and stuff like that. Now they're kinda, like, regressing them to back to being like, "Oh, now they're gonna be 8-year-olds," and stuff like that. So now you're doubling down on the reason why the Tales of TMNT got canceled, which is the most least interesting, version of the Turtles. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Be like if they made One Piece for a preschool show with English dub. I don't know how they would be able to pull that one off. I mean, because the reason why they had to censor a lot of the animes, especially like One Piece or like Yu-Gi-Oh! And stuff. So for Yu-Gi-Oh! They had created stuff like the Shadow Realm and stuff like that. Because I didn't know that, because I thought the Shadow Realm was actually something. But then, no, it was just something that the English dub had made up, so that they can be like, oh, okay, well, this character was supposed to get killed off and stuff, but we can't say that or we can't display that, so we have to like be like, oh, okay, well, they got sent to the Shadow Realm and stuff like that. You know what I mean? They had to be a little bit like that, or they couldn't show guns and stuff like that, and they had to like take out the guns or replace it with something stupid, that kind of thing. But I don't know how they would be able to turn the dub into a preschool show, even though currently One Piece they have a Lego show coming out now that's going to be a little bit of a focus on Usopp, so that should be I guess pretty interesting for the kids out there since the Netflix show is doing pretty well. You knew the fact that, Wink Club was on Nick Jr., but not Joke. I remember that years ago. Yeah, I think I kinda remember that vaguely. I didn't really watch the Winx Club like that, I'm not gonna lie to you, but, I think I remember seeing it was sort of on that program, though. Oh, yeah, I forgot to draw or color in Iceman's Trail of Ice. Can you request drawing of Aang for an upcoming Avatar movie? Um, I was thinking about doing requests, but, not tonight, though, but maybe another time. I might do, adult Aang maybe from the, Legend of Aang movie, probably. I kinda liked well, I did like Aang's, like okay. So I kinda found it I wouldn't say weird, but you know how, like, Aang had the, classic Air Acolyte outfit on that he's usually wearing and stuff like that. I was kinda like, "Man," I kinda missed that, like, that last season, outfit that Aang had on and stuff like that, but then by the end of the movie and stuff, it kinda became, like, a little bit of a resemblance of that, where it got, like, torn and, like, it's, like half of him like kind of shirtless a little bit, and then the other half is like the cloth part. I thought that's a cool look for Aang, kind of, you know. And that's like yeah, that should have like kind of been a little bit of his staple kind of look a little bit, you know, for the most part. But I know they want to go more in the classic kind of direction, kind of like Katara's hair loopies, where that was kind of like her definitive look. But then when like Katara started wearing her hair out like longer and stuff like that, yeah, I think that's a better look for Katara and stuff because it made her look a little bit more mature and older and stuff like that. All right, here it is. The X-Men. I'll probably take a picture and put it online. So if you guys want to get a better look at it, I I gave Angel. He's the only one that doesn't have any pupils, or actually, well, him and Iceman are the only ones that don't have pupils. And if you want to be technical, it's Cyclops, but you know he's firing his optic blast though. I'm going to leave to watch the new SNL video. Okay, that's cool. All right, but I appreciate you for coming, Taylor. But anyways, these are my other drawings and stuff that I did today. Yeah, that one definitely eclipsed the coloring and all that. But my drawings of Tom Kane, the voice actor of all of these characters on this page. Tom Kane is the voice actor of Professor Utonium and the voice actor of Magneto from Wolverine and the X-Men and the Marvel's Capcom games. He had passed away this year and stuff like that. And I was kind of thinking about Tom Kane too before his passing, which is weird because I was kind of thinking to myself like I like his voice as like Magneto or like listening to the quotes that he'd be saying online and stuff. Well, not online, but you know about the Marvel's Capcom. Like if you look up the Marvel's Capcom quotes and stuff, Magneto has some crazy retorts and stuff where he's kind of funny a little bit or like pretty witty and stuff like that. But I like the because he balances out the like the old and also the cynical nature of Magneto at the same time. So this is a drawing of Tom Kane himself. Here's Professor Utonium. He actually even voiced Iron Man at one point too. He voiced Iron Man inside that not that show, in that movie Next Avengers and stuff, which is a pretty good movie and stuff like that. But I could probably talk about that later. Here's Yoda. Here's he even voiced Mr. Harriman from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. And then of course there's Magneto at the top. So yeah. Then on this one, this is D Chase, the voice actress of Lilo and Chihiro from Lilo and Stitch and Spirited Away and stuff like that. So yeah, because you know she had recently passed away. I think she died of like a drug overdose, which is kind of crazy. And she was pretty young too. Like she was like what 36 and stuff, or around 36, which is crazy. So man, like she died young, man. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, I love Fossil from Imaginary Friends. Yeah, that was a good show back in the day. Yep, definitely used to love that show and whatnot. Let's see what else I got. All right. Well, let's see what I can do. I know I can definitely color this in for sure. I guess I'll work on this first. But yeah. Let's see what topics I got. Oh yeah, I can show you guys my recent comics that I got. Got the 20 issue number 20 of TMNT recently. I haven't read it yet. Now I also hear that this is the 300th issue special of the Turtles. So that's pretty cool and stuff at the same time. So it's a pretty big well not a big book, but it definitely has a lot more pages than your regular book and stuff, and a lot more action and stuff in it and different art styles. So I'll have fun reading that later tomorrow, obviously, if I can. And then I got the Street Fighter swimsuit edition. It had Chun Li, Sea Viper, and Cammy as some of the covers and stuff. I went for the Chun Li one. Cammy was a strong second. I was like, I do like Cammy, and I do want to give her some respect, but maybe I might get the Cammy cover a little bit later, possibly. But yeah, check her out on the front cover or on the first page or the table of contents. Oh yeah, my girl Elena. Mm, yep, some fan service. Yep. But anyways, let me get on this though. All right. Yeah, let's go. Should have this done in no time. And it's kind of weird too because I didn't know she was the voice of both Chihiro and Lilo. But when you think about it, it makes so much sense. But I ain't gonna lie to you, when I was like a little kid and these shows that came out, I did kind of have, I think, sort of a crush on Chihiro. Well, definitely on Chihiro from Spirited Away and stuff. When I first saw Spirited Away, and I think even Lilo too, to an extent and whatnot, you know. But that was back when I was really little, so you know, didn't really watch the show, but I kind of watched the show a few years ago though. Just to like, I guess, catch back up with Lilo and Stitch. But I used to watch the movie and whatnot, and of course, the movie was great. Didn't watch the live action movie though, of course, because I was like, I think I'm good on the live action movie because it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I mean, even though the Stitch design was pretty good and stuff, it was kind of like one of those little Sonic things where, the CGI thing. Well, I wouldn't say the CGI thing looked horrible at first, but it was kind of like, okay, everybody liked the design of Stitch, but the movie itself is kind of like, all right, well, it's still going to be a rehash of Lilo and Stitch, so like, why should I go on my way to like rewatch it? When I could just watch the animated movie. So I didn't really watch it, but then of course, a lot of people had problems with it because you know, they had Nani go to like college or whatever and stuff like that, and she abandoned Lilo because she uh she had to like raise Lilo and stuff after their parents had died, which it kind of just ignores like the fact that like Nani had to sacrifice like, like make sacrifices in that first movie or the original movie for Lilo's sake or whatever to take care of her and everything. And that was the whole purpose, is like their family and all that stuff, and that she fought like hell to kind of like keep her out of child protective services so they don't get split up and all that stuff. But in the movie, the live action movie, I feel like it just kind of negates that a little bit, where they Nani has this portal device that allows her to travel between college and taking care of Lilo. And it's like, you could just go back to college like later on or something like that. I don't see why that's such a necessity right now, unless there's like a specific job that you want to do or whatever. But and of course, I wanted to add a little bit more to this page as well. So I drew Haku from Spirited Away as well, who was like the Deuteragonist, and I also drew Stitch right here and stuff to kind of just add in a few more characters to the mix, even though she didn't voice them, of course, but but they're companions or partners and stuff like that. And as you guys know, I had watched X-Men '97 this week and stuff. We talked about it with Jay Leno. Uh, pretty good episode. I actually liked. Again, we were focusing on the characters and stuff. I could probably use it. That don't really get the time of day. Most of the time, like Polaris and stuff. I've been like, all right, well, that was pretty cool to finally see Polaris in action and stuff like that, and people really liked it too and whatnot. And I was like, and it's funny too because I was kind of going myself like, now that Magneto's dead, I wonder what his children's reactions is going to be if they're going to focus on that. And I think they're trying to purposefully leave out Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver for the time being because they kind of retconned in the comics that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are like, well, they're still siblings, but they're not the children of Magneto anymore, which is pretty stupid because like, so you guys are ignoring all that comic book history just so that you guys can like spite Fox because you didn't have full ownership over the characters. Like that's kind of stupid, you know. But it's whatever. Um, so I hope they definitely undo that and stuff because Magneto, yeah, because it just makes sense for them to be the children of Magneto and whatnot. And then Polaris, but yeah, but Polaris, of course, her relationship with Magneto is still intact, and that she's still, still his daughter and everything. So, anyways, but where was I with Polaris? But yeah, it was nice seeing Polaris in the recent episode and stuff, and her taking on Danger. I kind of think the Danger concept is kind of weird in general, where Professor X enslaved a sentient computer of the Shi'ar and basically it got out of control. And I'm like, um, yeah, because there was a lot of stuff from the 2000s of X-Men stuff where they were just doing a lot of stuff to kind of make Professor X look like, I don't know, look like some kind of bad guy or something like that. Like, for example, like the whole him trying to kill his sister Cassandra Nova, even though she was pure evil, but still, it's like, damn, bro, he tried to kill his own sister when they were still in the womb together. That's pretty crazy. Or like, God, X Men Deadly Genesis, that storyline and stuff, which that was pretty terrible and stuff. Because in case you don't know, X Men Deadly Genesis was like this storyline where like Professor X, so the original X Men, which was I think Cyclops managed to get away, but the other X Men, like I think Jean, Beast, Angel, Iceman, and well, yeah, that's them. They all get captured and stuff like that by some kind of like creature or some kind of like on the island or whatever. So basically, the original introduction of like Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, and Banshee, and John Proudstar was when they were rescuing the original team of X Men from that and all that stuff. And then they became the new X Men after, like shortly afterwards, and all that stuff. So it's kind of a little bit weird because Deadly Genesis is supposed to be like a in between backstory that went in a dark secret that Professor X had like this whole time he had created a separate team or whatever of X Men that he had trained before he had got into recruit Wolverine, Storm, and all them and stuff like that. Where let me take in these other set of kids and like hurry up their training and stuff like that, so that they can go out there and then they get themselves killed and stuff like that. And then one of them was actually Cyclops' brother Vulcan, which I think that was his introduction into the comics and stuff. So I just felt like they were just unnecessarily just doing stuff to make Professor X look like a bad guy. And I don't know why. I'm just like that was just so much unnecessary drama. And there was a lot of that stuff going around inside what's his face inside the Marvel comics during the 2000s and stuff, where a lot of the storylines is just like, I don't know about that, or it just felt like, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. Like retconning Iron Man to be adopted by the Starks and stuff like that. That was pretty dumb. Or like Spider Man and like retconning out his marriage because the writers and the editor felt jealous or whatever because Spider Man gets to live a happy life or whatever. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. It's just like it's stupid, and it just feels like it just regresses the character sometimes too. But anyways, but going back to the Polaris thing, I kind of strayed off that topic. But yeah, it was nice seeing her definitely in action and stuff, kicking some butt. I did get something wrong with Jay Leno's stream because we were calling Polaris a Omega level mutant, and I looked it up, and I think she's actually considered an Alpha level mutant and stuff, not an Omega, where she's close to Omega, but not exactly there just yet, like her dad. So there is that with Polaris. But I think she does have an extra ability that Jay Leno had mentioned that Polaris has, which was the energy absorption or the energy production thing, because I don't think that's something that even Magneto can do. So yeah, so there are things that characters can do, or not characters, but things that children can do that the parent just can't do and whatnot, because they probably inherited it from like the other side of the family and stuff like that. So think of like Boruto, for example, where a lot of the characters inside Boruto's generation and stuff, like his classmates and stuff, that are the children of like Naruto's friends and stuff from his generation. A lot of them have inherited abilities from each other and stuff. Where let's take Shikadai. Shikadai has he's the son of both Shikamaru and Tamari, and stuff, and he can use wind style just like Tamari could, where he has that potential. But at the same time, he can use shadow possession jutsu like Shikamaru can. So it's a little bit like that, where obviously the other parent can't do one or the other, or like Inojin, where he has like uh beast mimicry, like cartoon beast mimicry, which is something that Sai could do, but not something that can do. But then, he can also do mind transfer jutsu, which, that's again exclusive to but that's not exclusive to Sai. So, stuff like that. So it makes a pretty good and deadly like kind of combination though. I'm not gonna lie, when I drew and colored in Daveigh here, she kind of looks a little bit like Jessica Jones a bit, when you think about it. But that's just one of the pictures I found of her online. I decided just to go with that one because it was just so basic and simple. Yeah, I was on Mugen Lord's stream earlier and stuff where he was streaming on both his Venus Orion and his Mugen Lord channel again, where he is talking about one of his stories and whatnot, and how he completed one of his scripts for the Great Samaritan, which is pretty cool and stuff. I've been thinking about talking about some of my characters on this channel for a bit, but sometimes I kind of decide not to do it a little bit because I'm just like, I don't want people stealing my ideas because I don't have like a copyright or anything like over these characters like that. But you know, seeing Dr. Hino and how he can definitely pull it off and he can do it and stuff like that, or he can definitely make it like entertaining with like his manga dubs as we kind of covered in the last stream. That stuff, I kind of want to do something not exactly like that, but of course, I can do my animations and all that stuff or whatever. So I can kind of make it like I like to make my artwork a little bit entertaining for you guys to watch because that's the thing about I guess you could say like presentation sometimes is that you gotta like be able to kind of make it a little bit compelling than just, oh, well, I drew something pretty, look at it, and then the end, So, like, time lapse videos and stuff like that. Like, definitely if I had like music and stuff going over this and like, oh, the speed and everything, that definitely, yeah. Which I used to have a lot of those back on whatchamacallit, TikTok, but it's been a while since I've done that too. But I did kind of find out something with X-Men 97 though. I think the next episode is going to be about the Savage Island or Savage Land and stuff. So it might just be another filler sort of episode. But yeah, before it is Apocalypse, and then we'll probably get like a two-parter with Apocalypse and all that stuff. So that could be something that could go down. But I do appreciate the stuff that we're like the content we're getting, regardless from X-Men 97 though, because it is kind of entertaining to watch and whatnot. Back from the SML video. Cool. What'd you think about it? Just finished drawing Lilo. Now we're gonna do Chihiro. And speaking about Bleach, like I said, I was watching Bleach earlier and stuff, and I was watching like the earlier episodes and stuff like that. Of course, where Ichigo gets his powers and stuff from like Rugia, and then where he helps liberate Orihime's brother, which is a ref. Like in case you guys don't know, Ichigo's encounter with Orihime in the third episode of Bleach is actually based, or the second episode of Bleach. It's well, the second and third episode actually is based off of the chapter 0 or the original pilot for Bleach from the original manga. Because in the original manga of Bleach, Ichigo actually was was an actual Soul Reaper, not a substitute, and not like all this half or partial Soul Reaper, Quincy, human, hollow, and all that. Like, no, Ichigo wasn't all that. He was just, just straight up, just a just a Soul Reaper. Nasty slop. Oh, I have a question. Have you seen the live action Bleach movie in Netflix? No, I have not. I remember my aunt suggested it to me and was like, "Yeah, you remember that show? You were showing me Bleach." And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "I think they made like a show out of it or something like that, or not a show, but made a movie, like a live action movie about it." Yeah, I think I've seen clips of it, but I haven't really watched it. Watched it though. No, I remember. I did watch that Full Metal Alchemist one though. I thought it was okay. I didn't hate it per se, but I don't think a lot of people really liked it either. But anyways, what was I saying with Bleach? So yeah, with Orihime and stuff, that whole thing was based off of like that original story for like Bleach where like yeah, Ichigo was a Soul Reaper straight up and stuff, not a substitute Soul Reaper for like Rugi or anything or a human at all. And that he was helping like trying to help save Orihime or whatever, but it was kind of a little bit too late because her brother had already killed her. But then he helped liberate her soul and all that stuff or whatever. So it's a pretty dark ending, but it's like yeah, kind of like that. But I think with the actual like what we actually got with Bleach, I actually kind of liked how in a poetic kind of way, like Ichigo does actually save Orihime, and Orihime does become a lot more bigger later in the story where she helps save Ichigo and all that stuff, and like helps him out in the final battle, and then they get married and have kids, or have a they have a son together and stuff like that. So that was pretty pretty nice, like when you think about it. In the end of the day, but yeah, but I just got back from that episode actually from Bleach. I know some people kind of think sometimes like we should probably remake like classic animes and stuff like that from the 90s and 2000s. Like let's remake, let's say for example Naruto, but with a more modern animation style. And personally myself, I'm like, I don't really feel like that's necessary to do that and stuff. Like I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nice to see Naruto content, but I don't feel like we need to like really remake Naruto with a more modern animation style because the animation from back then was fine for what it was. It was hand drawn. It looked good for the time and everything. Like I don't really get moved a whole lot sometimes when some animes have to have like this like spectacular animation kind of look to it where it's like 3D and it's like oh high budget and everything just to be like oh okay this is amazing and stuff like this or this is what makes me enjoy the fight even more. Like, I mean, that's cool and all, but I don't think it's like gotta always be like abundant with every single or synonymous with every single anime though. You know? Now if you did want to do something, I would say like, yeah, make a OVA or something like that for like Naruto. Personally myself, I'd rather you just said in Naruto Shippuden and stuff like that because I'm kind of like, and it's kind of like a little bit with the Aang thing too, where I'm kind of getting tired of seeing like a young Aang or I'm getting tired of seeing young Naruto and stuff, and I'm just like can we at least get them like as adults or teenagers and stuff like that or whatever? And I know I was telling SSJ that it was kind of redundant to see like adventures of like a young adult Aang. Although that probably could have worked if Legends of Korra didn't happen and stuff. I would probably be like, you know what, kind of like for it. But to be honest with you, I'm just like, eh. But with Naruto though, I would probably rather see that with Naruto because at least like we can kind of see Naruto on more difficult missions and stuff, or see his improvement in between from like well we've seen it in Naruto last, but we can see more of his improvement from like since the war arc going into like his adulthood and stuff like that, and like what really makes him like the ultimate ninja. But anyways, going back to Bleach, so, but it definitely brings back memories and stuff. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I remember this like this back in the day, or whatever, or this trope with Bleach where like Rugia is like, oh yeah, I'm the new transfer student to class, everybody, and stuff like that. And I'm like, because that became like an ongoing joke with like everything weird that happens like in Katakura Town, and like whatever like pops up or whatever is like, oh, Ichigo's this thing that Ichigo's dealing with, or this associate of his, is like a transfer, is now the transfer student going to his school. He's like, why is everybody going to my school? Why is everybody in my room like this is a conference or something? Like, stop it. Yeah, so that's kind of hilarious. All right. Drew Lilo and Chihiro. Check it out. Now I gotta work on Stitch and Haku. And then I'll probably just call it a night from there. Because I got 13 minutes until it's midnight. Huh. So I guess that's what you're talking about, the stomach virus thing. But I'll probably check it out later. Yeah, I think the beta for Marvel Tokon Fighters is out. The beta for yeah, so the beta for Marvel Tokon Fighters is out. So it's nice seeing the interactions with characters and stuff. Spider-Man and Green Goblin were definitely having some interactions where Green Goblin was poking jokes at Spider-Man about Gwen Stacy. He's like, "Oh yeah, well, are you still mad about me with the whole Gwen Stacy thing?" And Spider-Man's like, "Yeah, that and so many other things." I'm just like, man. And he's like, and then Goblin's like, "Oh yeah, that's what I call the Gwen Stacy special." Like, damn, really got to play with him in his face about his ex-girlfriend, or his dead girlfriend that she cheated on him with you. That's pretty messed up, man. Maybe Peter should have thrown some shade back and been should have brought up their children, Gabriel and what's just call it? Um, yeah, cool. Yep, appreciate it. But yeah, and then I saw some interactions between Magic and stuff with that Russian accent and stuff like that. Um, it sounded like a straight up warrior, and went out with like other like with characters like Storm and Danger and a few other stuff. So that was probably that was pretty cute stuff. Mhm. think Haku had blue eyes, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong on that front. All right, let's get to Stitch. I have a question and thoughts about Lilo and Stitch in the live action film. Yeah, I was kind of talking about a little bit about it earlier. I have not seen it and stuff. I don't really have an interest in really watching it per se. I did kind of remember though Eddie Murphy was in the movie as Cobra Bubbles, so that's pretty interesting, I guess. But yeah, I was saying earlier, yeah, it doesn't make any sense that they had like Nani like this whole well, I'm going to try and go to college and stuff like that, but I'm going to leave Lilo behind and stuff like that. And it's like they kind of missed the whole purpose that, Nani had to sacrifice like a lot to try and take care of Lilo. And they just introduced this random, like, plot thing where, oh, okay, well, she can just use a portal gun and come visit sometimes. And it's like, no, Lilo needs an actual guardian present to kind of like, take care of her and stuff like that. She can't, like college. Like, what is she going to do in college or whatever? I mean, I understand she can get a job and stuff, but Nani had no problem getting jobs uh, to try and support for them, at the, yeah, in Hawaii and stuff like that. So it's like weird how, like, okay, let's just do that now. So I know I did put out that Man of Steel, or that the DCEU Superman is a lot more accurate to the DCAU than the DCU is and whatnot. So I was pretty proud of that video and how it turned out. I kind of missed one thing that I wanted to put in the video, but I kind of made it. I forgot, and I was like, "Oh man, I forgot it." Which was the Clark Kent scenes where he's being Clark Kent. He's like, trying to at least do some investigations inside BVS, or he's standing up to Perry White. That's what I forgot to add inside the video, but I completely forgot. So I was like, you know what, screw it. The video was long enough, anyways. So I was like, all right, well, it's good enough as is. It's already like 50 like or 51 minutes. So yeah. So I rewatched it a couple of times. It was pretty good, in my opinion. Outside of that, but I just wanted to add more and more to it and stuff. And I was kind of glad I was kind of able to sort of get away with putting some of the movie clips on there. But of course, I had a little filler over it. But I'm pretty sure if it was playing like more of the music and stuff like that, then I definitely would have been like, they would have definitely been like, oh yeah, well you got to take this out or cut this and that. And I'm just like, bruh, Nani just committed child abandonment. Yeah, yeah, no way. Although I think she was probably thinking about like leaving them with Pleakley and Jumba and stuff. I think that was her plan, I guess. But it's like, well, I don't know. Yeah, like I don't know what they were planning, like what they were doing with that one, or what, like why they thought that was going to be well received. But that was a very boneheaded decision. She lived in Hawaii, had a biology schools in college there. That's why there gives California. Excuse me. But yeah, like yeah, but that was just kind of weird though. Like how they just concluded that with that, and that's not even how like the movie was supposed to like go. And then of course there was controversy because they casted a light skinned actress to play Nani, and Nani is like a dark skinned Hawaiian woman and stuff like that. So it's like, oh dang. All right, well, that's my drawing for that. Let me show you guys. This looks like close up. So you see Haku, Chihiro, Lilo, Stitch, Daveigh. Yep, 1990 through 2026, which is such a short life. Then of course Tom Kane's roles, but I'll probably do this tomorrow though, because it's getting late and it's 3 minutes to 12. But yeah, Hollywood has a colorism problem. Yeah, yeah, they pretty much do. They definitely do. Like for example, well, I guess I can probably talk about this real quick before I end it, because I know a lot of people like to clown on the Aunt Viv from Fresh Prince, like the light skinned one and stuff like that, and it's like Janet Hubbard is the best. And don't get me wrong, Janet Hubbard, the dark skinned Aunt Viv and stuff, the original one, she was definitely the best. I'm not even gonna take it away from anyone or take it away. She definitely was the best, of course, and she was like kind of good enough to kind of carry the role in an episode, or she had a little bit more personality and stuff compared to the second one that came in. But I think the second one was okay. Like I don't think she was like terrible or anything, but she just wasn't like that strong of a lead per se. I think she looked a little bit more closer to Hillary than anything. But yeah, like she looked a little bit more closer to Hillary and whatnot. But yeah, whereas the first one kind of looked a lot more like a little bit like, yeah, she can definitely be Ashley's mom and stuff like that in Carlson's. But yeah, but but yeah, or like Claire from My Wife and Kids, where I was rewatching My Wife and Kids, and I'm more familiar with the light skinned Claire than the original one. But to be honest with you, I think the original one was probably a lot more talented than the light skinned Claire and stuff. Where the light skinned Claire, I'm not saying she don't have any talents in acting or anything, but it was kind of like she was just there to kind of be a little bit more of like sex appeal than than actual merit, Whereas the original one was kind of there, and she kind of did like she did have the talent and stuff, but she just felt like a completely different character when they made when they made the switches between those two Claires. So those are some examples of like colorism in Hollywood that I'm just like, look at they're gonna cast Black Panther to cast a light skinned African man. Um, I don't know if they'll be able to get away with that one. There would definitely be a little bit backlash with that. Uh, rest in peace to Davia Chase. Nice tribute to Chase. Yep, thank you. But anyways, I appreciate you guys for coming and stuff. Thanks SSJ, Dr. Hino, you Taylor and stuff. You guys have been troopers and whatnot. I know it's been a little bit of a dull stream for the most part and stuff where I just drew and whatnot and just try to like, at least kind of keep it a little engaging. But hey, it is what it is. But I'm gonna do the same thing tomorrow, and maybe I might also do two streams where the first stream will probably be the drawing stream, and then the second will probably be like me just talking to you guys straight up with a microphone and from my laptop as usual. So we'll see how that goes. But anyways, have a good night, everybody.